David Mancuso is on
Yeah,
the
so
stream
I
side.
believe this is David
hmm
Mancuso with his team of Buzzswole, Gastrodon, Metagross, Nihilego, Salamence, and Tapu Koko.
Okay, those guys are going to get started. Search for the opponent. And on Diana's side, we have a Xurkitree, Arcanine, Mandibuzz, Ninetales, Garchomp, and Tapu Lele. So a little bit of different teams. I don't really think there's too much odd things here, but it's very interesting that they both chose different Tapus. Um, and we see the core of Metagross Salamence on David's side. He is coming back from a short break, so he did not attend Fort Wayne Regionals, but he is here today, playing in this mid-season showdown, hoping to get some points, having some fun. It looks
And
like there might have been an error.
yeah, it does appear that. But one thing is to take note of is that we see the very common Metamens core from David's side, and that's a super nice core to have right now. It's really been tearing up the meta for a little while now.
And let's see. On Diana's side, we have Tapu Lele Mandibuzz, another core that's pretty common here. Uh, I would be pretty, I would be pretty expectant to see the Mandibuzz carrying something like Psychic Seed to help with that. Uh, she also has Ninetales, which has been making some big splashes, especially thanks to Sam Pandelis, who took the runner-up position at Worlds this year. All right, and let's see.
Along with potentially a more bulky Xurkitree as we often see in these types of
hmm
teams.
Actually, it might be more of a direct copy of Sam's team, I think.
Yeah,
Although I don't think Sam had an Arcanine. I might be mistaken on that.
I don't
Please
think
don't
he
kill
did
me.
either.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how she takes it and puts her own spin on that. As far as David's team, other things that are interesting are the Gastrodon, which I feel like won't be too important in this matchup. There are no water types, of course, so Gastrodon is not very important here. But Nihilego could cause great trouble for Diana here. It hits a lot of those Pokemon, and if it's carrying Hidden Power Ice, could mean trouble for that Garchomp as well.
Though we do typically see a little bit of a bulkier Garchomp on these types of teams, just pretty much for the unexpected hidden power ice on enemy on the opposing teams. So
Uh,
Garchomp could live those, but
mhm.
only time will tell.
Yeah. Diana is going to have to figure out what kind of items David has decided to put on his Pokemon, especially that Tapu Koko. Very important there. Could be the Electrium set or the Assault Vest set. We really don't know until we get into game one. Looks like Diana is already ready to go with 40 seconds still remaining in the team preview. David, on the other hand, is going to take a little bit more time to think about what he wants to bring. Uh, I would be pretty surprised if he brought Buzzwole or Gastrodon, though. They don't seem to be particularly great in this matchup.
Yeah, Gastrodon not having any water to drain. I mean, it could take those electric type attacks into Flare Blitz pretty nice, but as we see, we're about to hop into the game here.
All right, here is round one, game one of the Fort Wayne Midseason Showdown at Indiana Tech. And this is tethered, as all tournaments are now tethered. So we will get to see the nicknames of these players' Pokemon.
That is always a fun thing for me. I always love when we're able to see them.
All right, so Diana's going to lead with Tapu Lele and Mandibuzz.
And David is going to lead off with his Tapu Koko and Nihilego.
I think, okay, so Coco is going to set up the electric search first, so that immediately reveals some information as to where the Tapu Lele set is, which I don't know why it would be Scarf, maybe a bait set, but we do see that Psychic Seed pop off for the Mandibuzz, giving it that special defense boost, ensuring it survives these two attacks, probably.
So David could just go right off all aggro into that Mandibuzz, ensuring that that Tailwind does not get up. Assuming he does have either the Life Orb on one of these two mons, I believe that Mandibuzz wouldn't be able to take both of them.
Especially considering that Tapu Koko, if it's carrying the Electrium set, could also blow the Z move into Mandibuzz and really ensure, if after the double up, that it doesn't get that Tailwind up. Really important. But Tapu Lele is also very threatening. If Diana does not choose to protect this turn, she can get a lot of damage on both of these opposing Pokemon. So David will have to choose and pick what he wants to do. Should he spread his attacks or focus down the Mandibuzz?
Tapu Lele Mandibuzz is such a great combination because Mandibuzz has such a nice amount of bulk to it, especially with that with the seed item. So we do see the the Thunderbolt go into the Mandibuzz and get a
And that is a
paralysis.
paralysis. Really unfortunate if it doesn't get to move. Tapu Lele actually outspeeding the Nihilego here. Gonna throw out the Psychic, Gonna get up the one-hit KO. Critical hit. Not sure if that mattered. Nihiligo special bulk is pretty good, but in Psychic Terrain, probably not going to live that anyway.
And the Mana Buzz goes for a taunt into the Tapu Koko.
Interesting call. Taunt there seems kind of like a wasted move. No Tailwind coming out, so Tapu Lele is still going to be kind of slow here. As Metagross comes in for David, going to put some pressure on that Tapu Lele.
So one thing that you always have to fear when you bring out a Metagross onto the field with the Mana Buzz is the potential for a foul play.
Right.
Foul play does massive amounts of damage to Metagross.
Especially if the weakness policy is activated, since it will gain +2 attack, but Mandibuzz will enjoy that a lot, since it will then use that +2 attack against it with the move Foul Play. Tapu Koko here is taunted, so no Protect will be able to come out here.
So we actually see the Lele switch out from Diana's side, a Garchomp switching in.
Alright. Metagross is going to go for that Bullet Punch, not blocked by Psychic Terrain against that Mandibuzz, since it is a flying type, as we see the Electrium go off. Now, it will be interesting to see if Diana did call that on the Lele and switched in to take that, or if it just goes into the Mandibuzz.
I'd have to imagine with the little chip bullet punch damage into the Mandibuzz that he had to expect that. Maybe the Mandibuzz would live even with the Electrium Z.
Right, so this is going to just eliminate the Mandibuzz from game. That's pretty good, considering Diana did not do anything offensive this turn other than switch and try to get a better position here. So Garchomp out here. Diana will have to replace that fallen Mandibuzz. Meanwhile, taunted Koko doesn't seem to be too phased right now. He's been getting off these attacks as Lele comes back in.
So right now that Metagross is not in a great position. It can do a lot of damage to that Tapu Lele, but that Garchomp could hit it up with a big Earthquake or maybe Ground DMZ if he is running that, or if she is running that, pardon me.
Correct, yeah. And we did see that Tapu Lele was faster than Nihiligo, so it might be faster than Metagross as well. And that's dangerous since Tapu Koko can't protect itself, as we do see the switch to kind of preserve that Tapu Koko for later. Salamence coming in, getting that Intimidate onto the Garchomp.
So Garchomp actually goes for a Swords Dance. Got to make sure to get negate those boosts and get a little bit higher.
That's smart because instead of using his Roundium Z if it has it, or going for an Earthquake to pop the potential Metagross's weakness policy, it chooses to set up so that later down the road it can get the one-hit KO. As Metagross takes some damage from Zen headbutting the Garchomp here.
But that Garchomp is not in a great position right now, or pardon me, at a health position right now. He took a lot of damage from that Zen headbutt.
Right. Luckily for Diana, her Psychic Terrain is still up, so Bullet Punch isn't going to be able to take out Garchomp regardless, even if it was +2. And Garchomp typically does outspeed Salamence, so we'll see here if Diana can do something about this Salamence so that Garchomp can get off his ground move.
So you see Garchomp actually go for Protect, maybe
Right.
predicting that the Bulldoze to come out.
We see Metagross Protect too, so it looks like they both read each other a little bit, trading Protects here. And Salamence goes for the Bulldoze, just going to try and slow down that Garchomp or Tapu Lele. Going to do pretty negligible damage here.
As we do see the Moonblast come out and into the Salamence slot.
And that does KO, so I'm not sure that's quite a favorable trade for David. He does get his Tapu Koko back in, which does threaten the Garchomp with Dazzling Gleam and resets the terrain, so it does have a bit better of a position than the last turn, though Diana still has another Pokemon in the back she can switch out to and serve this Garchomp for later.
So right now, that Tapu Lele, even though it is facing down a Metagross, I do not think it's in too much trouble if he is able to actually outspeed that Koko, as we did see it did outspeed the Nihilego earlier in the game. So maybe it's a slower Scarfed variant.
Well, we do have to consider that it did just get slowed down by Bulldoze, so I don't think it will be outspeeding anything, as Diana does indeed switch to the Tapu Lele to get the reset on terrain and speed. Xurkitree coming in. Dazzling does pick up the knockout on Garchomp as expected. Does a little bit of damage to the Xurkitree as Zen Headbutt. Awesome call by David here. Knowing that Lele is likely to switch out, he decided to use Zen Headbutt instead of the super effective Meteor Mash, picking up a lot of damage and popping the berry on Circuitry.
That was a very good call on David's part, because Meteor Mash wouldn't have done a very good amount of damage, but it did proc the berry, so maybe the
Meteor Mash would have been better anyway.
yeah, because then it probably would have been just out of range for that Meteor Mash to, or pardon me, for the berry to proc.
So Tapu Lele comes back in and sets up Psychic Terrain for the rest of the game. It's very interesting to see two electric types here and two psychic types, both on opposing sides. And I would say that Diana kind of has the advantage because Circuitry is here and ready to do some damage, but without electric terrain, I'm not sure how much damage it can really throw out here.
As we actually see David's Tapu Koko go for the Protect here.
We see both electric types here trading Protects, once again, probably trying to avoid the knockout from Tapu Lele, but actually Diana just went for the double Protect.
And the Metagross just goes for the Zen Headbutt into the Circuitry's Protect.
Yeah, I kind of like that play. Since the double Protect, there wasn't anything for Diana to really lose other than trying to bait out other Protect. And instead of hitting into a risky Protect, although if both the Psychic types hadn't protected, then it just would have been a dead turn anyway. So we're kind of just in the same position, although 3 Protects have been wasted since last turn.
So you see the Tapu Koko just go for a Dazzling Gleam, getting a little bit of damage onto everything here as the Thunderbolt comes out into the Metagross.
Doing a lot of damage, but no terrain boost means it's not going to be enough to net that KO. Psychic coming out, doesn't get the KO surprisingly here.
Yeah, that Tapu Koko just hanging on with a little bit of HP as the Zen Headbutt is able to pick up the KO onto that Circuitry.
Yeah, so Diana maybe not running a super offensive Lele set, which means that critical hit at the first turn on the Nihilego might have mattered there. But now it looks like Tapu Lele is in a bit of a situation. Diana's going to have to be a little lucky and see Metagross miss a couple of attacks possibly.
Yeah, I really think that's our only way of getting out of this at this point is for the Metagross to miss maybe, I think it would only take one extra miss from the Meteor Mash to be able to pick up the KO Psychic.
Tapu Lele is going to use that Moon Blast, correctly predicting Tapu Koko to protect here. Going to get some damage on Metagross. And Metagross is going to miss that.
He actually does miss.
Well, it's still not over. Diana's going to have to need another miss, assuming she doesn't have Dazzling Gleam, which most non-choice sets don't carry Dazzling Gleam, so I would assume she doesn't have it. Of course, Metagross can also try to stall out the Psychic Terrain and get Bullet Punch back, and that could definitely seal the deal right here if Tapu Lele is more of a frail set, but as we've seen, it looks to be more of a bulky set.
So right now, I think if you're David, you've got to think, alright, how can I work my way back into this? Because he is at advantage, but this certainly is not a lost game for Diana yet. Because Meteor Mash can always miss. Thunderbolt probably won't do enough to pick up the KO from this range at least.
As we see the Thunderbolt going in for the damage, it's going to do a lot here. Getting that critical hit, but that actually is going to work against David here as he's going to proc that Wiki Berry.
Tapu Lele goes for another Moon Blast into the Metagross slots.
And that should be enough for a KO, so it looks like David might have lost the game off of that critical hit. Without that critical hit, Tapu Lele would have been outside of the berry range and enough for the Thunderbolt to KO the next turn. We did lose the feed, so we'll hopefully get that back before the second game starts, but it looks like that Thunderbolt's going to go off.
I don't think I heard... No, I don't think it picked up the KO.
I don't think so either.
Just going on audio cues.
And it looks like Tapu Koko is going to fall to that Moon Blast. So Diana's going to take game 1.
But that was a excellently handled game by David. He was able to play through the entire time. He was never out of it, even till the end. But also goes for the same thing for Diana. She played that very well.
Taking advantage of these opportunities that she creates for herself. She didn't get to use the Garchomp, which was a little unfortunate, but in the end, the critical hit from Koko onto Lele was really important for that matchup.
Absolutely.
As those two players are going to get into game 2, possibly delayed since we have to get the feedback before we can see anything.
Just go completely on audio cues.
Oh, here we
right?
go. Yep.
Here we are back.
There it is. That might have been a dislodged cord or something.
Bit of a jiggled cable.
All right, and we're gonna go into game 2 of this set.
So what are some adjustments you think that David could do for this time to help it bring it back for a second game?
I definitely think the 4 David brought were correct. I would say that he would need the terrain, but it's kind of risky since the circuitry is always a threat in electric terrain. But he did kind of blow the Z move a little too early for my tastes anyway. Nihilego didn't get to do anything thanks to that critical hit from Tapu Lele. So maybe David will have a little better luck here and not get critical hits when he doesn't need them or when he gets hit.
Yeah, that was a very interesting match because we always think just getting damage onto a Pokemon is always the most important part, but sometimes that damage could actually kind of heal the Pokemon back up. So it's important to manage the damage you're doing, not just do damage.
Those berries are really important, man. Let's see. So, what else can we see? We didn't see any Tailwind from Diana, which could have made a difference in that battle. It definitely would have made it easier for her to kind of take the game, unless David could effectively stall out the Tailwind. And interestingly enough, I think David also didn't protect his Metagross very much, and I would have liked to see a bit more saving his Metagross, since at the end game there, Tapu Lele is alone, and Diana correctly identified Metagross as being more threatening than the Tapu Koko.
Absolutely. As we see the time clicking down to 0.
Looks like Eshi may have timed out, but we'll see here in this game 2. Alright. Oh, and I am a little disappointed that neither of these players have nicknames, but you know.
Nicknames are, it's like a part of the game. It's like a little bit of fun. You can always like have a funny nickname for your Pokemon.
As we see Metagross Salamence for David.
And we see Circuitry Garchomp for Diana.
This lead is pretty okay for both players. I think neither one is really too ahead or behind thanks to this lead, although Salamence is certainly free to go for that Bulldoze combination, instantly giving Metagross a weakness policy boost if it has it, which I would be surprised if it did not. Slowing down Circuitry and Garchomp as well, really important for this matchup, as Salamence itself is pretty happy sitting in front of Garchomp and Circuitry.
One thing that he might have to consider, though, is that last time we saw he went for a Bulldoze, his Garchomp just protected, so it did not lose its speed, so it did still outspeed that Metagross after that Bulldoze because he protected.
Right.
So we might see another similar play here from Diana.
Yeah, Garchomp is going to protect here. Going to stop Bulldoze from slowing it down if David chose to do so. Circuitry also going to protect, doesn't want to take that speed drop. Also a good play, just want to scout what it does.
As we see the Metagross also protect just to make sure, hopefully they get that Bulldoze off, but as we did see, Diana was able to protect both of her Pokemon.
That's an interesting call. I think protecting Metagross there was correct, as you don't want to take the combined moves of Garchomp and Circuitry, and you want to slow them down. But at the same time, not protecting Metagross would have allowed you to get that weakness policy boost and then prepare you for the later game, and save your protect for this turn rather than the last. So without any protect, Metagross is kind of in an awkward position.
Yeah, it's always a really tough call on that first turn, like, because there's so many options for that Garchomp. It could have set up a Sword Stance if it wanted to, or could have gone for the Ground DMC, but I actually just see the Metagross go for another protect, I believe.
Yeah, kind of the only thing he had to do there, since I don't think he wants to switch in any of his other Pokemon to take the Earthquake or Tectonic Rage. Getting the critical hit on Garchomp actually with Bulldoze, still pretty negligible damage, gonna get the speed drop on those two Pokemon, as we do see that Tectonic Rage coming out. And of course that's going to be into the Metagross, since Salamence is a flying type. I don't think you would Z-move into that.
Unless she's making some extreme predictions, right?
Right. And yeah, I think she's just going to be able to take out the Metagross with this Tectonic Rage, even at -1. She can guarantee it by following up with Circuitry's Thunderbolt, possibly. But it looks like she doesn't need it. She's just gonna
Yeah.
pick up the KO right there.
Poor Metagross never got to show off its abilities.
And Thunderbolt coming out doing some pretty decent chunk damage. But David down a Mon, although Diana's are both at -1 speed. I'm not sure how relevant that is, considering the rest of David's Pokemon are pretty speedy.
Right now, if I'm David, I'm gonna have to be pretty scared because you led a very strong combination. You lost one of the key pieces in it, turn 2. So
Right.
that's gonna be a hard time for him to play out of, I think.
Nihilego coming in here. We did see from game 1 that it's probably a slower variant. So maybe it doesn't even outspeed -1 Garchomp or Xurkitree, which could definitely be an issue since Garchomp is threatening it really big, in a big way with that Earthquake. But we'll see. Nihilego didn't get to do anything last game, so we're still a little in the dark about how it's playing.
So one thing I think we could see is that Salamence just going for a Dragon-type move into that Garchomp, hopefully being able to pick up the KO onto it, so Nihilego may be able to do something else to that Xurkitree.
Right, as Diana takes Garchomp back out, gonna save it for later, knowing it's important to the matchup, switching in that Mandibuzz to take this Dragon Pulse, which, oh, actually Dragon Pulse went into Xurkitree here. Gonna proc the berry, unfortunately. Another syndrome. Gonna restore all that damage that was just dealt.
And Sludge Bomb and a double into the Xurkitree actually, doing pardon me, a little bit of screen
Lag
there.
As Xurkitree went for the dash, doing a bit more damage to Salamence and possibly popping a Nihilego Focus Sash here. Mandibuzz in now. It's very safe to Tailwind, but have to be careful because Nihilego do carry Trick Room on occasion. So if David can call that and Trick Room on the Tailwind turn, he'll be in a fantastic position to turn his game around.
Also, that Mandibuzz is not at +1 Spadef yet, so a potential Power Gem could do a lot of damage here if you mix it up with the Dragon Pulse also.
Flamethrower coming out from Salamence, gonna try. I guess that was a call to try and burn something on the switch, but it's going to knock out the Xurkitree either way. Taunt coming out into Nihilego, which is going to stop that Trick Room from going up. Excellent call from Diana. I'm assuming that's actually what she was doing in game 1, but she actually knocked it out instead, so the taunt redirected itself onto the Tapu Koko.
What an unfortunate turn of events, right? Oh no, I crit it!
Right. But without Protect or Trick Room available to it, Nihilego is definitely at the whimsy of the Psychic-type Tapu Lele and the Ground-type Garchomp. So we will see if David can still make it back here. Since Psychic didn't KO Tapu Koko in game 1, I would say that it probably survives this one, and could throw out a Sludge Bomb into Tapu Lele for some massive damage. But both of David's Pokemon can't protect here, as Salamence is likely that Assault Vest set. So he will have to really assess what Pokemon he wants to keep and what Pokemon he wants to have attack.
So he actually switches out that Salamence for the Tapu Koko, getting rid of that Psychic Terrain.
Definitely going to try and guarantee the Nihilego's survivability here. Going in, doesn't do a whole lot without the terrain. Sludge Bomb does indeed go off into Tapu Lele, going to do a lot of damage. Not enough for the berry, which is great for David here, but Tailwind does get up, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, so now that Tapu Koko is not looking too good, staring down that Tapu Lele and the Mandibuzz. One thing that Mandibuzz could be carrying is that Snarl, lowering the special attack of both of those Mons.
Yeah, Snarl here would be absolutely fantastic for Diana, and we'll see if she does have it. Some Mandibuzz don't carry it because we have seen so far that she has Taunt and Tailwind, and they usually always carry Foul Play, which leaves the last slot up to either Roost or Snarl, particularly. Tapu Lele is a little weak and can only pick up the KO on Nihilego at this point, especially not in terrain on Tapu Koko. So Tapu Koko will probably get an attack off this turn.
I actually see the Lele switch on out for that Garchomp.
Okay.
Maybe to take a Sludge Bomb and then a Thunderbolt potentially.
As Nihilego also backs out in favor of Salamence, going to get that Intimidate onto Garchomp switch in, which is pretty important since it now means Tapu Koko can probably take Earthquake here, as Mandibuzz is just going to go for the foul play.
Doing a little bit of damage onto that Tapu Koko.
Possibly enough to get it in Earthquake range, as Thunderbolt does nothing into that Garchomp.
Yeah, that was a rough play. Unfortunately, that Garchomp, Diana did make the correct play, is bringing that Garchomp in.
And now she's put herself in a fantastic position to either Swords Dance, using that Tailwind to scare David into protecting his Tapu Koko. But we have to remember that Salamence here is in a pretty okay position to fire off a Dragon Pulse if she chooses to take advantage of these Tailwind turns. Mandibuzz, on the other hand, probably does not have Snarl since I didn't see it. Earthquake does come out. We'll see if it's enough to take out Tapu Koko here.
It's certainly going to be close. As we see, it is actually enough to pick up the KO.
Oh, it's actually a critical hit. So those critical hits are really important. They really change the game, how this game works. I would have liked to see a Protect there. There wasn't particularly too much. As Foul Play knocks out Salamence as well.
That is impressive foul play damage.
It might have to do with some... It might have to be invested in attack with that Salamence, or possibly just using that base 135 natural stat, since Foul Play is a base 95 attack move. So that was impressive. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, I was expecting it was going to live like with a little bit of HP, but no, it just gets KO'd straight off.
And with David remaining with Nihilego outside of Tailwind, outside of Trick Room, it's looking all but over. Diana is probably going to take a decisive victory this game too, with some help from a little critical hit.
As the Garchomp just goes for the Earthquake, winning Diana the game.
And the set. Great games to both players. There were a couple of critical hits that kind of threw the game out of whack, but that's the game we play.
Absolutely.
And I think both players showed their stuff here.
Pokemon is a game of risk management, and I think Diana handled those risks.
Diana knew when to throw out those taunts, which were especially important against Nihilego here. And David making a couple of wrong calls, which, I mean, you can't fault him for since they were really just raw 50-50 calls. Absolutely. Will she protect or not? Right.
It's always rough, and when you lose the first game, because there's so much pressure that you have to like come back.
Okay. All right.